Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Today's story begins with a random driver stuck in traffic turning into a full-blown troublemaker, chasing OP through a maze of neighborhoods and blowing up when OP refuses to be his personal GPS. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with a turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. No, sir, this is not a shortcut. It's my driveway. A few weeks ago, I had one of those bizarre encounters that make you seriously question the logic or lack thereof some people operate with. I live in a residential neighborhood that, while nice and quiet, is nestled between a busy main road to the north and west and two major freeways to the east and south. Because of this setup, there are only 3 entry/exit points into the neighborhood, all of which connect to the main road. It's not the kind of area people usually drive through unless they live here or are visiting someone. The streets are narrow, packed with parked cars, full of sharp turns, and peppered with one-way routes. Even GPS apps tend to avoid routing people through it unless there's no other choice. Now, lately the main road has been a nightmare due to major construction in the area. I mean, we're talking parking lot levels of gridlock during rush hour. So when I was driving home that afternoon and found myself crawling along the main road, I was more than relieved when I reached the entrance to my neighborhood and turned off. I noticed a car behind me, a fairly nondescript sedan with an older gentleman driving. I didn't think much of it at first. After all, plenty of people live in the area, and someone else could have been heading home. But as I made a few more turns deeper into the tangle of narrow roads and oddly placed stop signs, I noticed the same car sticking behind me. Still not that strange. It could be someone who lives nearby, right? Another few turns, and I'm almost to my street. The guy's still behind me. By now, I've turned off the main feeder street into the twistiest part of the neighborhood, the kind of street you'd never take unless you had to. This is when it starts to feel odd. Finally, I pull into my driveway thinking that's the end of it. But nope, the other car pulls up right behind me and just stops there. Doesn't park, doesn't drive away, just idles directly behind my car in the middle of the road. I get out of my car and start walking toward my front door, and that's when the window rolls down and the man behind the wheel starts yelling at me. I mean, full-on venting frustration like I just personally ruined his entire week. "You misled me," he barked. "You should have taken the shortcut. I thought you were avoiding traffic too. Now look where I am." I blinked at him, completely thrown off. "What? You left me stranded in the middle of nowhere," he continued. "This place is a damn maze. I was following you to get around traffic, and now I'm stuck." Now I'm standing there with my keys in my hand, wondering if I've somehow slipped into a hidden camera prank show. "Sir," I said, "I didn't ask you to follow me. You should have signaled or something. You can't just abandon someone like that." "Abandon?" I repeated. "I don't even know who you are. You chose to follow me." His face was turning red, and I could see he was trying to come up with something else to blame me for, but I wasn't about to hang around. I muttered something about this being private property and stepped inside, making sure to lock the door behind me. I watched through the blinds as he just sat there in the middle of the street, gesturing at his steering wheel and muttering to himself. A few minutes later, he finally drove off. No idea which direction he went or whether he ever found his way out. And frankly, I don't care. The entire interaction was surreal. I mean, who follows a random stranger through a neighborhood and then gets mad when they don't deliver you to a magical shortcut? What was I supposed to do? Hop out and wave him along like a traffic cop? I told some friends later, and we had a good laugh about it. One even joked he's probably still circling those one-way streets, yelling at the mailboxes. Moral of the story, if you're going to blindly follow someone in traffic, maybe don't pick the car that's just going home to unwind after work. Or at the very least, take some responsibility when you end up somewhere you don't recognize. Bonus tip, just because you're frustrated with traffic doesn't mean you get to turn random drivers into your personal navigation system. If that was me, I would have said, "You're lucky I didn't call the cops for following me all this time. I don't know your intentions, and you don't know what mine are either. Use your GPS to get out of here since your genius idea is what got you stuck here. Then walk inside and lock the doors before getting cozy." And our second story. Chronically late coworker owes me time, so I collect it shift by shift. Back in college, I worked at a gas station. We worked for cash under the table, so it was pretty loose. Another quirk was that we didn't clock in and out, but were paid for each 8-hour shift. I worked 4 p.m. to midnight and had a passing friendship with the guy who worked the overnight shift. We attended the same college and had some classes together. Let's call him Dave. Dave had a problem showing up on time. Generally, it was 5 to 10 minutes, and we were friends, so I didn't mind too much, but I took to calling his house 15 minutes before my shift ended just to make sure he wasn't dragging his butt. He lived about 15 minutes away. Because I was so affable about him being a few minutes late, he'd basically show up at 12:10 on the regular, and it really started to get on my nerves. I wasn't being paid for this time, and he was. One night, after a particularly horrible shift, I called Dave's house and a mutual friend answered. I asked her if Dave was there, and she said yes, but he was in the middle of a game and couldn't come to the phone. Not wanting to vent my rage at her, I just said thanks and hung up. Dave rolled in at 12:30, his latest yet, and I let him have it. I reminded him that he was getting paid for work I was doing, and it was completely unfair. He acted kind of annoyed and interrupted me with, "Just let me know what I owe you on payday." I came up with the idea on the spot and agreed to his terms. I stopped calling him to remind him to leave his apartment and jotted down every minute he was late. The time added up quickly because without my constant haranguing, he was coming to work even later, generally 15 to 20 minutes late. I was always cheerful and friendly when he finally deigned to come to work and never mentioned him being late again. Several months later, I went to pick up my pay and my weekly schedule. It was printed out as this was in the olden days, and Dave was at the counter. "Oh, hey," I said, "I was hoping to run into you. I need to tell you what you owe me." He rolled his eyes and reached for his wallet. "Oh, no, you misunderstood," I said, sliding my printed schedule across the counter. "I don't want your money. I want your time. You owe me 16 hours of time. Which 2 shifts of mine do you want to take this week?" He tried to argue, but I showed him the records I'd been keeping, every shift up to the minute. He tried to say he'd work for me next week, but I wasn't having it. "I didn't get to choose when I had to work for you. You're lucky I'm giving you some kind of choice, but it has to be this week." Dave worked 7 shifts that week, including a double. He was never late again. I absolutely love this pettiness. And cherry on top of the cake is the fact that it was so good that he learned his lesson and never did it again. Thank you for your pettiness. And our last story. Karen thinks my wife works at Walmart, tries to snatch our baby, gets arrested. Yesterday was supposed to be a fun, simple day, shopping for our daughter's 6th birthday. Instead, we got front row seats to a full-blown Karen meltdown. I wish I were exaggerating. We headed to the local wall-to-Walmart with our 2 kids, our daughter turning 6 and our 10-month-old son. The plan was to let our daughter pick 3 small birthday presents or a big one. You know how it goes. We hit the toy aisle. She wanted to check out everything, so we had a system. My wife, Amber, and I took turns handing her toys from the shelf. She'd inspect them like a tiny, ruthless critic, decide yay or nay, and either drop them into the cart or hand them back. Eventually, we had a cart full of finalists. After a bit of pleading and her best Disney princess eyes, we agreed to 4 toys instead of 3. Classic parenting weak spot. The distractor from the rejected pile, Amber offered to take her and the baby to grab a drink from the in-store fast food counter while I quietly put the toys back and prepared to sneak the winners to checkout. Easy plan. Enter Karen. As Amber walked away, she heard someone behind her say, "Excuse me." She figured it was a polite passerby and kept going. A little louder now, "Excuse me." Still not worth turning around for. Then came a tap on the shoulder. Karen immediately leapt into Amber's face. "I've been waiting minutes to be helped, and now you're just walking off with some guy's kids?" Amber, stunned, replied, "These are my kids." Karen scoffed, then yelled, "Why are you working with your children here?" And while Amber was still trying to process this insanity, Karen reached toward the baby carrier like she was going to grab it. That was the moment the mom instinct kicked in. Amber pivoted fast, shielding our baby while our daughter clung to her legs in fear. Amber texted me one word, "Help!" Just as she said it, Karen slapped the phone out of her hand and shrieked, "Employees shouldn't be on their phones while working." Amber, I don't work here. I'm shopping with my kids. Karen, I saw you helping that man and putting toys back. You're obviously working. Where's your manager? Now our daughter was hiding behind Amber, terrified, while the baby started crying from all the noise. Amber stood her ground, but I know her. When her mother bear mode activates, it's best not to stand in her way. Meanwhile, I'd just gotten a text and heard the baby's cry across the store. I bolted toward the noise and turned a corner to find my wife trying to calm our children while a complete stranger screamed in her face. Karen saw me and without missing a beat yelled, "Finally, a manager! You need to fire this worker! She brought her kids to work!" Now I'm just standing there trying to wrap my head around her logic. Amber was in jeans and a dark red shirt. I was in a Packers shirt and jeans. No uniforms, no vests, no name tags, nothing remotely employee about either of us. I made the mistake of saying, "She's my wife." And Karen lost her mind. "Your wife? You let your wife bring your children to work? What kind of broke family is this?" She kept screaming until security finally showed up. Karen turned to them like they were her personal army. "You need to throw them out. I want to speak to the owner." The officers didn't even blink. "Ma'am, let's go talk in the office." She was escorted out, but not before yelling, "What about them?" The guard deadpanned, "We'll handle them in a moment." The moment she was gone, Amber collapsed into a nearby chair while I took the carrier from her. She took our daughter to the restroom while I rocked our now calm son. A few minutes later, a manager approached and apologized profusely. Karen was being detained until police arrived and they planned to press charges. He asked if we wanted to as well. I said yes. Amber returned looking less on edge, and our daughter crawled into my lap and whispered, "Is the bad lady gone?" "Yeah," I said. "Karen's gone." The manager gave us a gift card as an apology before we left. We didn't even bother grabbing the toys. We'll go back another day. We ended the day with ice cream, and while it didn't erase the trauma, it helped. I've seen a lot in my life, but never a stranger try to snatch a baby because they hallucinated a Walmart uniform. The sheer audacity and unhinged entitlement of this woman left us speechless. I've never seen a box store worker bring their kids to work. What would possess someone to assume such a stupid idea? Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.